There we go. So today, for those that are just hopping on, we're talking about, do past lives and multidimensional lives matter? Okay, how exciting. So if you've felt drawn to having a past life, if you've had one yourself, if you feel really excited about the idea of exploring multidimensional consciousness, I'm going to explain these things in a little bit more detail, and you can comment below because I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have, because I know this is a big subject and there's also a lot of controversy around this, so we love a bit of that, don't we? Right, okay. Robert Williams, hi Robert, how are you? I've not seen you for ages. Yes, it was out of this world. Wow, yes, they are out of this world, really are. Letitia, all good, thank you. Being a bit weird here in Liverpool, but all okay. Right, well, I'm sending you lots of love frequencies. And yeah, I love Liverpool and I love people from Liverpool. So thank you for coming and joining me today. And I know you from my dancing days, I think, don't I? Is that right? Okay. So we've got some questions already. Claire, I'm going to really good question. How does past life regression work? I'm going to go into detail with that in a moment. So thank you for answering that question. Okay, right. So exciting. Let's do a little bit of light language before we jump on. So this morning, we get into it. I've had some coffee, and I tell you what, I don't normally have coffee. And when I do have it, I start speaking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like, my thoughts are like well ahead of like my mouth. So I'm gonna do some light language just to bring me into a state of like centeredness and a state of calmness, so I can bring forth and allow everything that needs to be said today. I'm going to invite you just for a moment to just drop into your heart space with me. And what I mean by that is bring your awareness from your mind into your heart. And you can do this by placing one hand over the other. So you'll often see me asking you to do this in my videos, in my transmissions and things like that on YouTube, because when we drop into our hearts, when we bring the heart and mind into coherence, and that's the first bit of having a quantum regression, okay, what we're actually doing, what we're actually saying is we are saying yes to spiritual information. We are saying yes to opening our hearts and our minds to beyond what we can perceive in this current moment, okay? And what that allows us to do is it raises our frequency, meaning our higher selves, angels, guides, spiritual information is easily more able to flow through us and then be translated into physical form, and it opens our third eye and allows us to understand light information more easily. And this is what light language does, okay? So light language, the language of light, the language of sound frequency that accesses our heart space, that allows my soul to speak to your soul on a more connected level. So fifth dimensional and beyond conversation, communication. Okay, so I'm gonna send you these codes now just before we begin. Yes, India hasunia inna alahraka kamahasi kamahasima aye kamahasima arakotana shei nila hranaya kut aranima inna mahasuara warahasi et ea inna ta akarashi kama inna kalaharakoa inne yasa inna kurania ia. Okay, so just taking a moment to breathe here. Just allowing yourself to fully relax, fully ground, and just to receive this information today. Okay, so something I forgot to mention as well is, for anyone hopping on that may not be able to stay for this full transmission, all of these are going to be put on my YouTube channel. If you're not already following me there, I would invite you to go over there, Activation Amy on YouTube. I'm putting a lot on around activation, light language, quantum hypnosis, quantum healing, working with the angels and guides, multidimensional realities, all of this cool, interesting, fun stuff. Okay, Right, so we're going to start with the soul, okay? And how the soul works and the purpose of this incarnation, which is different for everyone, but there's kind of like an overarching theme. And then I'm going to go into what is a past life and what is a multidimensional life, and we're going to go from there, okay? So the soul, okay, so source, right, let's say the center of all that is divine love, right, bigger than our comprehension. Some people call it God, okay? There's many names for this, right? Our souls at their core are a fragment of the source. So we are source, okay? And what happens when we come into this life is we decided to come here to experience, right? The source experiencing through physical 3D reality, right? So what that looks like is you have been born with an overall intention, right? So an intention of something you wish to learn or experience in this lifetime, right? And that is going to vary, right? So it's nothing is set in stone. This is what I want to say. Nothing is ever set in stone. So when it comes to the phrase meant to be, right, we are creators as the source created us. It's a co-creation. This life is a co-creation. You created this life and these experiences, right? And the reason for that is because we come here to learn lessons. We came here to support the overall collective, right? So there is like an individual soul intention, but your soul is also connected on many levels. And there's a human collective consciousness intention, right? So it's all one and it's all feeding into one another, and everything is a mirror to your consciousness because it's a focus-based universe. What we focus on is what is created, right? And this is like quantum physics stuff, okay? So in terms of then, what is a past life? So first of all, in order for us to understand this experience, it has to be translated through our physical senses, okay? So you come into this life, you're born physically, and then you live your life, and then you die. And everybody, absolutely everybody here, no exceptions, will experience this. No exceptions, right? So in our physical 3D reality, we have the concept of time, right? Because that's how we understand experiences, right? However, your soul is infinite, right? There is no time in the higher realms, in the quantum field, right, of all that exists. So everything is happening all at the same time. And even me talking about this now, it completely blows my mind. It completely blows my head off because I'm like, it's such a hard concept for us to grasp, because in this physical form, we are built for survival, okay? But our soul came here to experience. So we're constantly coming up against this survival thing, right? Where time, money, got to survive, right? So it's like, when it comes to a past life, if you understand that everything is happening at once, okay, your soul has many facets on there. And a way that I like to explain this to my light language students and clients that come and work with me is it's like this tree, and your soul is this tree, and each leaf on the branch of this tree is literally a life that you're experiencing. So when it comes to light language, we're constantly tapping into, and past lives, we are constantly tapping into all these different leaves on this tree, right? So that's what is a past life. Okay, so let me just see if I've answered this question. Okay, so I'm going to come back to your question in a moment, Claire. How does past life regression work? I will cover that. Now, what is a multidimensional life then? So first of all, a past life, when we typically say past life, what we're referring to is a human life on this earth, on this planet. Okay, now when I talk about a multidimensional life, I'm talking about something that's way beyond that. And this is mostly the types of timelines and the regression work that I do, because whatever it is with me, it's just that I tend to attract people that want to explore multidimensional consciousness. Sometimes we do go, the higher self does go back and work with the past lives as well, because there was something there for that person to, for your soul to explore and understand on a deeper level. So multidimensional lives, okay, so what I'm referring to here is lives between lives, lives when you can go back to the time when you were existing as one with source, right? So it can be anything and everything. And honestly, like, I go into these sessions now with no expectations about where this person might go, because it's so vast and so infinite, and in a way, like, I have to be prepared for anything, because we can literally go anywhere, right? So for example, I'll try and say some of the ones that I've had that I'm allowed to say, because it's personal to each individual client, and I'll talk about the ones where I've given testimonials for and things like that. So lifetimes on spaceships, okay, driving spaceships, being part of the spaceships, like being abducted, things like that. We've got lifetimes as aquatic beings, mermaids, planets that are water. We've got, I mean, it's absolutely, it's so infinite. Lifetimes as angelic beings. It's just infinite. So try and think of a more recent one, like lifetimes as these little nymph creatures, lifetimes as giants. It's honestly, it's anything. It can be literally anything, and it broadens the mind, okay, when you understand that there is so much more to this human experience that you're having, that your soul is connected to. So Robert, this is out there, Amy. Alien appeared to me, yeah. He walked through a yellow haze, only stayed for a few seconds. Wow. Yes. And Robert, it's not out there. Like, honestly, for me, that's just normal. Like, it's so normal, like, I can't even tell you. And I think that's why I do this work, because I've always been very accepting of it all. And a lot of that comes from the fact that as a child, I had an outstanding imagination, right? And I honestly believe this is the key to it all. Healers, channels, light language people, coaches, whatever it is that you do, if you're in the spiritual field, there's always that part of you that goes, am I making it up? Yes and no, right? Because this is what I say to my light language client people, is that, like, it's all made up. Everything is made up. Like I just said earlier, we're making it all up because it's a focus-based universe. But what happens the more that you learn to work with your imagination and, you know, the clear senses, let's say, so your clear seeing, your clear hearing, your clairvoyance, your clairsentience, the more that you work with those senses, the easier it is for this information to come through your consciousness, the more that you're allowing, right? So this process is very much of a surrendering, okay? So I always say to people before they come and have a session with me, you might feel like you're making it up, you probably will, but I want you to just work with what is, okay? Claire, could you give me more information after about the light language course? Yeah, absolutely, lovely. I'll leave it in a link there. Hi, Debs. I always want to call you Ashaya, but Debs has had a quantum regression. She's worked with me quite a lot, and Debs is an incredible channel. And I remember when we did because we do quite a lot of this work in the light language course as well. And right, I'm not going to say it, Debs, because you'll have to give me the permission, because I've not asked for permission, because I was nearly going to say it then. But you can say about your experience. But it's just beautiful, and honestly, it gives you so much more insight into who you are and why you do things the way that you do, right? Because there's so much argument to say, like I see this a lot, oh, past lives don't matter, you know what I mean? And I feel like they do, right? Because if you are drawn to this work, then there's something here for you. It's as simple as that. If you feel like, it's like with anything, if you don't think it's for you, it's not for you. I give you permission to talk about it. Okay, I'll come back to it in a minute. Thank you. I think it's important to ask for permission. If you say it's a load of crap, it's a load of crap, right? But I know how it makes people feel, and I get messages all the time from people that have done the quantum regressions and months ago, and they'll be like, oh my God, Amy, it's all clicked into place. Everything that I talked about, it didn't make sense at the time, but now it does, right? So Debs, I remember in the session 3 of the Light Language 1-to-1 course I do, it was like Debs is one of we did a past life with Debs, and like I said, I don't always go to past lives because I work more on the multidimensional field. But with Debs, we had this little boy, and I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name, Debs? And like, oh my God, and I was just blown away because it was like, it wasn't Debs anymore talking. It was a different accent. The words that she was using was completely different. And this little boy was being a little bit cheeky with me in a good way, right? Because I only work with, you know, the sessions, I just want to put this out there as well. The sessions are completely protected, right? The intention is always to work with the highest and purest and source beings. And I do a lot of stuff in terms of, it's called spiritual hygiene, right? So we only work with, as with the light language as well, it's something that I'm very, very on the ball with, right? Because the dark does exist, that is a fact. And we need to be making sure that we're raising our vibration from a state of empowerment in whatever we do. Yeah, it was a bit of a flirt, wasn't it? That was really funny. It was really funny. And it was just like, oh my God, like, and it was just that, it's just, there's no way Debs could have talked like that. And this is what's so fascinating about them when we do these regressions. It's like with each lifetime that we go to, the being that's talking, the being that's speaking, there's a very different like energy, there's different mannerisms, and the person kind of changes a little bit with each lifetime they go to. And later on they'll watch it back and they'll be like, oh my God. It's fascinating, it's absolutely fascinating, and they're so powerful. And everyone always comes out of them going, like, they can't speak for ages, they can't speak for about for hours, because you're just like, oh my God. And I have had a lot of people come to them as well thinking that it's not going to work, or they can't do hypnosis or any of this. And it's like, it's the energy that the space is being held with, right? Because I'm not doing it. It's our combined teams of our angels and guides. And what we also do in the quantum hypnosis is we invite in ourselves as an ascended master, okay? And it's our advanced versions of ourselves, remembering that everything happens all at the same time. It's our ascended master version of ourselves coming in to give us the higher wisdom and connect the dots, and oh my God, I don't even know what that saying is, right? But connect all the pieces together and give us that higher perspective of things that we might be missing, right? So I've got a friend, for example, ones that, like, lifetimes are just coming to mind now that I can speak about. So I've got a friend that she struggles with like overwhelm and sensory overload, and she's got ADHD and stuff like that. And we went to a lifetime where we were on this spaceship straight away, and everything was really intense, and it was like a war on this spaceship, and she was really overwhelmed and fraught on this timeline. Now, here's the other thing as well. A lot of people feel like when they go into a past life, it's going to traumatize them in some way. It's absolutely not the case, because when I'm holding the space, if something like that happens, I always give guidance and prompts for you're observing it as a gentle neutral observer. So you're observing it kind of like a Netflix scene. We're not affected by this. We're not taking this into our life. If it's okay for you to continue to watch this and you feel safe now, what is it that the higher self is showing you that you're meant to learn from this timeline? And then the information comes through, right? And it's like, then all the pieces get connected, and it's like, this is why on some level she came into this life to transcend this experience of sensory overwhelm. And then I'm like, okay, well, give us clear advice, give us clear guidance on how she can do that then, please. And then with her, it was like, you need to spend more time in water. You need to go swimming more. Water is a frequency that will help you with your sensory overload. And she'd never sort of considered this before. And there was like other bits of information, and can we bring healing to this, how, you know, this timeline and all this. And it's just, that's just like one example. So it gives you that broader perspective, right? So there's absolutely nothing to fear, because the reality is, as I said before, the dark and the light coexist. We couldn't have one without the other, because the dark is an opportunity for growth. So if you're coming up against something in your life and you're like continuously feeling blocked around it, and you're continuously like, what is this? Why does this keep happening? Right? You can do all of the mindset stuff and all of that stuff, because I really believe in the human, let's say, grounded work as well, right? But the spiritual side of things is also very important. That's why it's called mind, body, spirit, right? Because you're doing all of that and healing the emotions as well. So it's always all about, when these sessions are done with the purpose of intention, right? This is the main thing that people want from them. They want clarity, okay? Because they're stuck at some sort of crossroads in their life, and they're looking outside of themselves. This is the big one, right? They're looking outside of themselves for the information, right? And that is important at times for us to accept and receive information through others. However, we are all channels. We have the ability to do this for ourselves. You have the ability to access the quantum realm and any information which you are seeking, right? It's all already there. And what this does is it opens the door to that realm for you to accessing your Akashic record, right? Because everybody can do this. And that's why I love this work, because I'm showing you how to channel for yourself. Like, it's not, I'm giving you the healing, you're giving you the healing. You are channeling for yourself, right? You can either give a man a fish, or you can teach them how to fish, right? I really love that saying, because that's what this work is all about. Because we are our own inner healer. We are our operant power. We have the ability to go to quantum dimensions whenever we choose that. And it's an incredibly, incredibly beautiful thing. So I have these sessions from time to time, and the power of them is, it's not something where you need to keep going back and back and back, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because that has its time and place. But these sessions are kind of like maybe like a once a year thing, or if even that. Like, some people have one and then that's it for the rest of their life. I'm quite intrigued by it. So as I grow and want to learn more and do more, I'll probably have one like every 6 months, yeah? So I'll tell you about mine now. So I had my first one with a QHHT practitioner. I think it was in 2019. And this was like a big turning point for me, where I had to learn that I am, again, the operant power, that I don't need anybody to channel that is outside of myself for me, because that's what I was doing. I was going to everybody else, yet I wasn't seeing my own abilities. Right, and as I say, there can be a time and place for that, but it's about sometimes the addiction that we have to looking outside of ourselves. And what that looked like for me was joining a now very famous cult that I'm not allowed to say, because I signed a non-disclosure act, okay? And I know that in the past, this is not me being paranoid at all, I've had people looking at my social media account to see if I'm speaking openly about this, okay? So this famous cult, if you want to check it out, is now on Netflix, and it's now on Amazon Prime, okay? I ended up in that situation because I was in a very, very vulnerable place in my life at the time, and I was in a state of victim consciousness, right? So that's how you end up in a situation like that. So I started to see warning signs from this cult having quite a religious upbringing in, let's say, quite a strict form of Christianity. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in a cult, right? I can't believe this has happened. How on earth have I let this come to be? Why haven't I seen this sooner? All these questions came up for me, and I was like, I'm lost now, because I followed these people and I haven't accessed my own abilities. And now all of a sudden I've got all these questions about spirituality. Is it safe for me to continue? What on earth am I supposed to be doing? Because I was very much involved with these people at one point. I was like a coach for these people, okay? And, you know, it's not a part of my life that I'm proud of, but it was a very, very big lesson for me that led to me ultimately doing this work. Anyway, so I had this QHHT session. Well, it was an online one, so I think it was his own modality, his own version of that. And, you know, I was asking about this cult and the information about it, and I was shown a past timeline where basically I was a cult leader, and in this time experience, I've experienced in this life being involved with cults. And it was like I had to experience the opposite of that so that I could understand fully how to transcend that experience and understand what it means to, you know, create spaces and communities, because this is what I do now, that are in integrity and in alignment, right? Because if I'd not gone and had that experience, you know, I might have still on some level not worked on that part of my ego, right? So this is something I'm actually very passionate about, is that like the spiritual ego is very, very, very real, and it's very, very subtle. Okay, and this is why I say to people now, be very, very careful around anybody that says that their healing modality is the best and the only healing modality that you will ever need. Okay, be very careful, use your discernment, not careful, discernment, okay, around anybody that says you need this, or that you need to keep coming back for session after session after session after session. Because the truth is, you have everything that you need, okay? We can offer our services as healers, right, from a space of integrity and with the intention of the highest good of all. You can say, here's a thing that if you're drawn to it, you may benefit from for the following reasons. But people that say this is the only way, that is not it. That's not what spirituality is about. Spirituality is expansive, okay? It fills you up. And again, with discernment, okay, look at when anybody's teaching something, are their actions in alignment with what it is that they're saying, right? So what this situation taught me and what came through in this quantum regression around this past life was, in this life, you know, you must teach from a space of integrity, okay? And you will never have to revisit a situation like that again. So this is why I believe it's always really important that as healers, coaches, as anybody that is working in the spiritual field, be checking your ego on a regular basis. Because with this high dimensional work, it's very, very easy to get carried away and start feeling like you're somebody important, right? And the truth is, again, from my experience, right, from my perspective, that again, I think Kerry Ascension Art, she won't mind me saying this, she shared a thing the other day, like a meme, and I need to share it, and it says like, no one is more advanced than anybody else, right? Nobody is better than anybody else. It doesn't matter how much spiritual work that you've done. The moment that you think you know it all, or that you're better than others, is the moment that your ego, your spiritual ego, is starting to come in, right? So it's something I'm going to own up to and say that I have done before in the past. and the whole woke movement about being more awakened and enlightened than others. Like, it's a thing, it's a real thing. Everyone's on their own journey. And what I want to say from the quantum regression work is this, and Dolores Cannon, I think, talks about this in her books, is that some people came into this life to have the experience of being a human and to live their lives in, let's say, a peaceful way, right? And just because they're not on the spiritual path doesn't make them any more awakened or not than you, right? So it's like, my mum said this in one of the live streams as well, and my mum's extremely wise and she hasn't read much of anything, right? She just lives a life and she does a mediumship and that's it, and she's just connected. She very rarely, like, I'm always on YouTube, I'm always chatting, I'm always doing stuff, do you know what I mean? But this is what my mum said, right? That the angel said through her. Does it make somebody that's, let's say, you know, an elderly person, they've had a beautiful life, they've got lots of family around them, yeah, and they've just lived their lives in a really beautiful, peaceful, quiet, loving way, right? And then you've got the spiritual teacher, right, that's saying all this stuff, but is completely out of integrity in many areas of the life, right? Because they're not a loving human being, for example, around other people. This is a big one, right? Look out for this one, yeah? Does this elderly person, are they any less awakened than the spiritual teacher that's giving it the big one, but not in alignment, you know, in their life, right? Well, actually, that person that's not necessarily following a spiritual path, but is being a loving human, that's actually the one that's like more awakened, right? Because we're all just having our own individual experiences through our consciousness. And when you go to these different timelines, some of the lives are very, let's say, mediocre lives, very simple, very simple people, but yet in that life they felt extremely connected and peaceful, right? And then they go to that life and I'm like, well, what were you meant to learn from that life, for example? Like, yeah, Debs, this is it in a nutshell. We all learn, we all teach, right? I'm learning all of the time. Like, for example, last week I jumped on here on the Saturday morning. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this wedding and I'm not going to drink. Well, I went to the wedding and drank, okay? So I had to own up to that the next day, because I was like, if I don't say this now, I'm one of them people that's like out of integrity with what it is I'm saying. I'm basically that spiritual teacher that's giving it the big one, right? So I came on and I said, you know what? I said this yesterday, but this is what actually happened, right? So it's like, and this is my point, and I think these sessions can be an incredibly humbling, doing the past life work, doing the quantum life work, it can be an incredibly like humbling, but an incredibly like peaceful experience, because I think one of the things with this life that we all experience is a lot of overstimulation and a lot of trying to get more, trying to be more, because this is one of the things with social media. We're constantly bombarded with images of what to strive for, and when you come back to who you are as a soul, and when you come back to what the actual messages of the, you know, this work is, it's always very simple. It's always very simple. And like, for example, Catherine, I'll say hers, Catherine Henshaw. So I did her a regression the other day. I'm going to share about that quite soon. And I've been dying to get into Catherine's consciousness for ages, because, you know, she's really connected to her guides and all this. But one of the lives we visited was incredibly, like, let's say, simple, and this was like a human past life one. And she was kind of at the base of the big statue of Jesus in Rio. And it was like the message was around it, you know, this was a life where you didn't fulfill, you know, what you came here to do. But it was like much more of a simple life, I think, that she had to integrate into this life. And I can't remember exactly. Maybe that's not the best example, but like the message is usually simple, like something like patience, or that, you know, love is all that you are. And because spirituality is simple, it's very simple ultimately. Like, we live our lives in an incredibly complicated way where we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we just don't need to do that. And the past lives and the quantum regression work is very interesting and it's very beautiful, and it just gives us that insight that it's simple. It's all simple. Like keep it simple. And I think that we can think that we want certain things to happen in a certain way, like from a place of ego, right? But it's not actually what the soul truly desires or truly wants and needs in this moment. And that's the power of this work, because we learn, you know, the biggest question that we have as humans is, why am I here? Why am I here? And that's what these sessions do, right? That's what the quantum regression work does. It taps us into who we are as a soul, why we are here, how to move forward in this lifetime so that we don't keep repeating this same cycle, right? And as I was saying before, yes, you can be shown, let's say, lives that are of maybe like a dark nature that didn't feel good. But I don't typically work with one lifetime. I typically do 3 or 4 for people in each session. And in the majority of instances, people are shown very beautiful incarnations. Yes, so I've not talked to you about mine yet, so I will just say what they two that I'm thinking of. So in the QHHT session as well, like the first thing that came through was this dragon. It was a beautiful white dragon, and as a child, whenever I used to draw in my high school in art, I didn't want to draw anything else. I just wanted to draw dragons, and I really didn't know why. And I'd always felt kind of a connection to dragons, but straight away it was this dragon that came through, and she's called Layla, and she's absolutely huge, right? Magnificent. And I was just channeling this dragon literally for like 9 hours, and we were going from place to place. We went to visit my light council with the 12 other beings around this big table, all the like different ones. So I was talking to them, receiving messages and insight from them. And during the session as well, how I ended up doing this work was I got told in the session, or as I was channeling, that I was meant to do this, that I was going to be doing this work. And I actually resisted it, I think, for about 4 years afterwards, because I was like, no, it's not important, it's not grounded. And that was all my stuff coming up, all my resistances, you know, and the light language as well. I resisted that for a long time. But it was like all the pieces clicked in together, and I'll save the light language story for another day. It's on YouTube as well if you want to go and watch that, because that's a long story. But it was like, they say that you don't have a choice. Now, you always have a choice, but it was like these different beings and guides were just happening to me, and I was going to different lifetimes in my dream state anyway. So it was like, okay then. And then as I started doing the light language, I developed my own modality around quantum regression, and then I went on to do the BQH, the Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis. And then I've started having, you know, BQH sessions for myself, and a more recent one that comes to mind is a lifetime as a mermaid thing. And I remember going into that timeline, and I was just crying. I was like, I want to be here. I feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like, this is my home. And it was like a piece of my soul, and you could call this soul retrieval, right? It came home to myself. So in my life, I know that I've never felt like this was my home, right? Never, yeah? And it's as you do these sessions more and more, you understand why, and that helps you to feel more at home here on earth, because you've got an understanding of previous realities, previous planets, or whatever you want to call it, that your soul has been incarnated into. So I think that's everything that I want to say around this today for now. Okay, so if you do feel called to having one of these sessions with me, Beyond Quantum Healing, Hypnosis, Regression with light language as well, I have got an offer on until the 11th of August. So if you want to find out more about that, I'm going to put the link in the comments, or please do send me a message. Or if you're curious about it and you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions. I normally do this through voice note because I find this just easier than typing loads of information. But you can just send me a message and ask me any questions. Do you know what I mean? So as you know, I never say to people like, you need this, like that. As I said before, that's not my thing. I don't believe in that. But if you feel called to it, there's likely something here for you to explore. Yeah, you're welcome, Debs. So if you've got any questions later on, you can just put them in the comments. Okay, so I hope you're all gonna have a wonderful day. I'm going to meet some beautiful friends now at Alex Park, because they have near Whalley Range, because they have a drumming circle there every Sunday, and it's absolutely mega. So people are more than welcome to, if they want to, come to that as well. It's well cool. So we just all chill out, just have snacks and things and a couple of drinks and that, and let me just chill and just play music and dance and listen to the drums, because oh my god, like music is, I love it. So sending you lots of love. Have a beautiful Sunday.